Hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Grace. It is lovely to have you here. I have noticed that so far this year I have not been reading that much from my physical TBR, even though it is far too long and I would love to get it down. I think this is for a few reasons, partly because I listen to a lot of audiobooks and I tend to get those through library apps or through things like Spotify, and it's easy to get hold of things that I don't own physically through those spaces, so I tend to pounce on whatever I feel like reading in the moment, which is great. But then I also work at a library, so I spend all of my time around all of these new books coming in and I get new recommendations every day, so my cravings for what I want to read are really all over the place. Now, similarly, a few months ago now, I made this TBR jar in my little mushroom pot of prompts that are going to hopefully encourage me to pick up books from my physical TBR that I might not gravitate towards otherwise. Now, I have only drawn one of these so far since then, and it was one of my favorite books of the year that prompt led me to read. So I would really like to use this opportunity to get through a few more of my physical TBR books, and I thought I could combine all of this into a 24-hour reading vlog. I did one of these right back at the start of my channel when I first started making videos, and I actually had a really good time. And I mentioned then that I am not the kind of person who could cope with fully staying up and reading for 24 hours straight. I need my sleep. I will not be a functioning human or a joy to watch in any capacity if I do not get my sleep. So last time I did it where I just did 12 hours each day for 2 days. I think this time I'm going to do the method where I just time myself when I'm reading. I still only really have 2 days to film this in, so hopefully I'll be able to squeeze those 24 hours into those 2 days. But I think this will give me a bit more flexibility, and it will make sure that I actually am reading for all that time rather than pausing to like go make lunch or something. So let's go back in time to Grace early this morning, picking out her first book. Good morning. It is 7:44 in the morning. I'm gonna pick my first prompt. I'm kind of terrified. I've added a few more into here since the last video that I did where I made this. And also, just as a note, if I pick the prompt that says read a 500+ page book, we're redrawing, because that will be a one book video and I don't think that would be very fun to watch. So other than that, let's pick. Okay. What is this? What are you? That's upside down. A children's book. Okay, that's all right, we can do that. Let me have a look. So I have two options from my TBR shelves. First, there is Charmed Life by Diana Wynne Jones. I have been wanting to get to some other Diana Wynne Jones stuff since I read House Moving Castle, and as you probably know, it's one of my favorite books. I never shut up about it. And I've heard really good things about this series as well. All I really know about this is it's about a young witch and her brother, but all I really need to know is that it's written by Diana Wynne Jones and it's got magic in it. Perfect already. But there is also Kiki's Delivery Service by Aiko Kodono. It's a very Ghibli vibe up in here. I think something about this cover is really just calling to me. It's so cute. I feel like I'm kind of in the mood for this one. I've never actually seen Kiki's Delivery Service, so maybe I'll have to finally watch it after I read this. It's also very short, which is good, I think. We can get an easy win up front and I could feel productive for this reading vlog. Oh, I'm so glad we didn't get one that made me pick a long book to start off with. So I think I'm gonna go for this one to start with. I'm so excited. Okay, let's go. Stopwatch starting now. Hello, I am about halfway through Kiki's delivery service now, and I think about an hour and a half into my 24 hours, which is quite quick going for me. It's a very speedy read, definitely. I don't think I'm loving it. It's not a bad book by any means, but it's not really my preferred style of writing. It's very kind of matter of fact. We're going through all of the things that are happening rather than very descriptive. And if you know me, you know I love my writing to be as flowery as possible. But I'm finding it easy to read, and I think the illustrations in here are gorgeous. They're by Joe Todd Stanton. It's like a new edition with their illustrations in, and I've read a few picture books by Joe Todd Stanton before, and I just, yeah, his style of art, I really enjoy the illustrations that he does. So I should be able to finish this one reasonably quickly, I think, which is good. I was really nervous that this was gonna turn into a one book vlog, but thankfully it will not be a problem. So I will let you know what I think when I'm done with this one. I have finished Kiki's delivery service. This was sweet. It wasn't my favorite writing style, like I said earlier. It was just a little too heavy on the telling versus showing, which is totally fine for a kid's book, but I tend to go for kids' books where the writing is very whimsical and lyrical, and this was a bit more just jumping from event to event. It was very easy to get through. I'm only on 3 hours 12, nearly 13 minutes. I don't know why this flashes. And it is a very short book, but for me, that's pretty speedy. I've only read a few books translated from Japanese, but I have found that that writing style has kind of been present in the ones that I've read so far. I'm sure that if I read more, there will be many different kinds of writing styles within Japanese fiction. If you have any recommendations for translations of any language, I would love to read a lot more translated fiction than I currently do, but if you have any recommendations for translated fiction with more lyrical of a writing style, I'd be really interested to pick some of those up. But this was fun. I also realized I didn't say what this was about. I think I assumed because it's a movie people will know, but in case you don't, this is the story of Kiki, who is a 13-year-old whose mum is a witch and whose dad is a human. And she lives in a little village, and she has to decide if she wants to follow in her mum's footsteps. And if you do choose to become a witch, then in this setting, at 13 years old, you pick a night with a full moon to set off out into the world and find your own town that doesn't have its own witch in it, so that you can be of service to that town, which is wild. Heading off into the world at 13 on your own is whew. So this is the story of Kiki and Gigi, her little black cat, setting out into the world to find their own place and start their own delivery service. So it's very cute, very easy read. Not a favorite, but not bad at all. And it was a nice little one to start off with, definitely. So let's pick our next prompt. I'm gonna give these a shuffle. Okay. A book written by a man. Okay, so my boyfriend actually came up with this prompt because both of us realized we have read basically no books written by men this year. I counted and I think I'd read 35 books, I guess 36 now, and only 3 of them were by men. So he thought I should add this to the list. Oh no, I don't have that many to choose from. Okay, let's have a look. Okay, so I pulled out 2 maybes. I'm struggling to pick. I've got Gog Magog by Jeff Noon and Steve Beard. So 2 men. This is one that looks really intriguing to me. It's about a washed up old boat captain who used to navigate a sort of magical, dangerous river through the skeleton or ghost of a giant dragon, which sounds so cool. And one day she is sought out to do one last job. And then I also have The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett, and this is meant to be a very strange fantasy murder mystery with quite snarky characters, I think. I've heard quite a lot of good things about this one. I'm really torn. Okay, I've had a read of the first couple of pages of each of them, and I think I'm more in the mood for this writing style right now. So I'm gonna give The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett a go. I haven't read a proper chunky high fantasy in quite a while, so I'm a little bit nervous, but I think this is probably the best time for me to read something like this because I properly have time to sit down and focus on this big fantasy world. So we'll see. Hello, update. I am about 70 pages in and I'm at 5 hours 19. The troubling thing is that it's already nearly 5 o'clock. I have taken a couple of breaks, as you can tell. My attention span for reading these days is not what it used to be. But that's not a reflection on this book. I'm actually really enjoying this so far and I was kind of nervous, but I am liking the characters, the dynamic between, we've got kind of a Sherlock Watson situation going on. And this is a really interesting magical setting. In this world, there's a lot of kind of plant magic and a lot of people have these augmentations that change their skills. Our main character has been augmented to be an engraver, which means that he can engrave things into his memory. He basically has a perfect memory. So he is the assistant to this detective and he goes at the beginning of the book to this crime scene and just engraves all of the details and takes them back to the detective that he works for. And she has some augmentations too that means her senses are incredibly heightened, but we don't entirely know the extent of them. I don't know why I'm holding up this cover as if it says anything. I've taken the dust jacket off. I'm enjoying this one. I'm enjoying the snarkiness of this detective. Her name is Anna and her assistant detective's name is Din, which is giving me Mandalorian flashbacks. I'm having to process that. There's also an issue in this setting where the world is set up in rings. It's sort of a wheel shape and the edge of the wheel is the coast, and that is the most dangerous place because the oceans in this setting are full of terrifying monsters, leviathans basically, and there are several rings of walls and the richer people live in the center, furthest away and most well protected from these sea creatures. And this is also a seasonal problem. There's like the wet season, I think it's called, where these monsters seem to appear. So we're leading up to that. There's tension building alongside this mystery that we immediately encounter. The first thing you see is Din approaching this crime scene. So I'm enjoying it so far. I'm not finding the world building to be too dense. I think it's been explained quite well, but without all tumbling out in one go. So now I just really need to buckle down and read. I'm probably gonna have to stay up reasonably late tonight reading, but that's okay because I'm enjoying myself. I made myself a little rhubarb and custard tea, so hopefully this will sustain me for a bit. I'm finding that just the joy of the randomness of getting to pick a new prompt, the excitement of that is great encouragement for my silly little brain to keep reading so that I can pull another one. I'm hoping I'll be able to finish this before the end of this video. I should be able to really, because I've got like 19 hours left. So hopefully I'll be able to pull another prompt. So yeah, I'll probably give you another update when I am a chunk more through this. But enjoying it so far. Hello, it's kind of late now. It's like 25 to 12 and I'm only 9 hours 24 minutes in. I don't know how this happened, to be honest with you. I was really planning on doing 12 hours today, which probably isn't gonna happen. I'm hoping I can still get to at least 10 hours before I go to sleep, which hopefully shouldn't be too difficult because I am really enjoying the Tainted Cup. I am exactly 200 pages in, which is around halfway, and the last 100 pages especially, I would say, I have really gotten very intrigued by this plot. I don't tend to read a lot of mysteries because I'm a big wimp, and especially real world mysteries, murder mysteries, really, it's a no from me. If it could happen in real life, I get too spooked. I will have nightmares, it will be a bad time. But the fact that this is so steeped in fantasy and weird kind of magical goings on, although the way they're described in here almost makes them feel scientific, that adds that layer of separation for me. And I do actually really enjoy a mystery when it doesn't scare me too much. So I'm really kind of devouring this. Also, I feel silly talking about this because the bar really is on the floor, but it is just really nice to read a fantasy written by a man that has interesting and prominent female characters in it. Sadly, not something I have personally experienced that much, but I haven't read as much high fantasy as I would like, which I think is a more male-dominated field from my knowledge. Sometimes I find the writing of proper high fantasy to just not be my kind of thing. It can be a bit dense for me, but I am really pleasantly surprised by the writing in here because I feel like the world building is very interesting and very well thought out, but it's not dumped on you all in one go. It's given to you in little spurts when it's relevant, and I've never felt overwhelmed by any of the things described about this world. I've just felt intrigued. The plant magic in this one, I'm loving. I'm really enjoying, and all of the characters have felt really interesting. The lead detective character has made me snort out loud several times now. She is pretty outrageous in the best way, and I'm just really drawn into the intrigue. I've honestly had a bit of a rough reading month, and I feel like this is really just drawing me back in to that joy for reading and just speeding through a book. So I'm having a great time. So I'll probably see you in the morning. I'm gonna try and get a bit more reading done now before I go to sleep. Whether I'll manage to get the entire 24 hours done tomorrow, we will see. I may have to tag on a little bit of time. We shall see. But now that I'm properly hooked into this one, I'm finding it a lot easier to concentrate. I think at first it was a bit of a shock to the system, really just focusing on reading for that long a stretch of time. But for the last 100 pages or so, I really haven't been struggling with focusing anymore, just because I'm properly sucked into the plot now. So hopefully that will continue, and I will see you in the morning with an update. Hello. I was gonna say good morning, but it's actually just the afternoon. I've been reading for a couple of hours this morning. I'm on 12 hours and 14 minutes, and I'm about 300 pages in now to Tainted Cup, and I'm still really enjoying it. I don't have any huge updates. The mystery is still unfolding. I'm having a great time. I think I just forget that I really love a good mystery. I just can't normally read them because they scare me too much. So this is wonderful. But I think I'm gonna head out now and grab some lunch and then maybe hang out in a cafe for a bit. I'm getting a little bit stir crazy. And then I guess I will come back when I finish this one to pick another prompt and to let you know what I think of it in the end. But I think I'm gonna love it. I also hadn't realized when I started this one that it is the first in a series, so I have locked myself into another series, but that is okay because I'm having a great time. So let's get some fresh air. Hello, I'm home. It is 5:40 in the evening and I am now 15 hours and 25 minutes in. I'm very much gonna have to continue this after work tomorrow, which is fine, especially because I have finished my second book, The Tainted Cup. I had so much fun with this one. I really want the rest of the series to be out, but it is not yet, but I will definitely be getting my hands on it when it is. This really just reminded me that I do love mysteries and solving things and putting clues together. I just don't normally get the chance to experience that because I'm a scaredy cat, but this was the perfect balance for me. It is still spooky and gory in some places. It's very much not like a cozy mystery at all. It's just got enough fantastical elements in for me personally to feel like there's enough distance between this and my real life. I loved our two main characters in here, the Sherlock and Watson figures. Their dynamic was so fun. And there were also so many other interesting characters in here. The world building was incredible. The plant systems, the contagions, the leviathans coming from the sea. I was so hooked, but it was never too overwhelming. I never felt lost with descriptions of the world. It all just felt really interesting. I can't believe I read a book by a man, and I'm pretty sure a straight man from what I can tell on the internet, and I enjoyed it. And there were complex female characters, there were depictions of sexualities other than straight, and they were not fetishized, they were also interesting, I felt. What's going on? I am kidding, I know that there are great books written by men. I've just been burned several times, especially in fantasy specifically. And this has really broadened my horizons and reminded me that there are great and unproblematic books out there in the fantasy genre written by men, and I would love to find more. And I think also having to read this solidly for this vlog made me appreciate it more. I don't know if I would have enjoyed it quite as much if I'd read it over a prolonged period of time. I definitely find with my attention span, I hit a rut every now and then where I think, oh, I've been reading for a long time, I want a break. But if I push through that for a few pages, I get sucked back into the story, and that builds up momentum. I've definitely found recently I've been enjoying books more when I've given them that solid push of attention. Reading is a strange hobby in that often you have to push through moments of boredom in order for it to be fulfilling. Not that I was ever really bored, but I think it's my own attention span's fault every now and then that it thinks it needs a break. But if I just push through, I will actually enjoy the experience more. So yeah, absolutely great time with this one. But we have about 8.5 hours more to go, so I'm gonna pick another prompt. Let's give him another little shuffle. What are you? A book I've heard bad reviews of. Oh no. What a way to end this. Okay, I have options. I really don't know what to pick. First of all, we have The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi by Shannon Chakraborty. Now, this is one that I have mentioned before because I've heard reviews saying that the narrator in here is too kind of weird and lyrical and experimental. And that's the kind of bad review that makes me think I would actually really enjoy this book because I like weird, pretentious narrators. So this is the one of these three that least scares me in a way. But then we have Feybound by Sarah El Arifi. And this was one that I was so excited for this year. I think a lot of us were, and then since then, I feel like the hype died down and most of the reviews I have heard have kind of said it didn't live up to expectations. And then I also have The Honey Witch by Sydney J. Shields, which I was also really excited for. And I've since heard some reviews saying it didn't live up to expectations and the writing and world building just wasn't that great. I don't know whether to go for the one that I actually do think I might enjoy the most or to try out one of these two that I have less good feelings about and see, because I do want to give them a go at some point, and this might be a good motivation to push through, but I also don't want to put myself in a reading slump if they are bad. I've read at least one book in this vlog that I really loved, so I'm gonna take that win and I'm gonna risk going for one of the ones I'm less excited about, I think. I'm gonna try The Honey Witch because I feel like it's the right vibe for this. It's very cozy. It's meant to be like a cozy sapphic fantasy, witchy vibes, and it feels like we're heading into autumn. I'm gonna give it a try. And also it's the shortest one, so I think it's the one I've got the most hope of finishing in this 24 hours. Wish me luck. I will let you know what I'm thinking when I'm a little bit of the ways in. I tried. Oh, I was so excited for this one. I'm trying to compile my thoughts because I'm gonna have to DNF this one. I told myself that I would get to 50 pages, but I was really struggling from 30 onwards, and I stuck it out till page 44 and then I just went, no, okay, I don't want to be mean. This is a debut book and I just think it needed more editing. The writing, it's not great. It's very on the nose. There's not really any nuance. It's a lot of people talking and a lot of lore dumping, and the lore doesn't necessarily make much sense. Basically, this is a, I think, Regency era story where the main character doesn't want to live the classic get married, become a lady of society kind of life. She feels like she has some special purpose, and then her grandmother shows up and tells her that she is a witch. But their line of witches has been cursed by an enemy witch to never be able to fall in love. But I don't think this is really a spoiler because it happens in the first like 30 pages or so, but skip 20 seconds if you don't want to see. The grandmother immediately then says that she had her own child, the main character's mother, through magic with no need for a partner at all, whether they were in love with them or not. So it just immediately negates the whole point of the plot, and the writing just feels clunky, and all of the characters don't feel like they have much depth, and everything's just said. There's no room for inference and nuance. I was really excited for this one. I'm sad, but no, I'm gonna have to DNF it. At least it's one less book on my physical TBR. I am now on just over 17 hours, so I still definitely have time to read at least a good chunk of another book. So in the interest of moving forwards, I'm gonna pick another prompt. Okay.
A franchise book.
A franchise book. Chris is watching. He wanted to see that. I told him to be quiet and he was not capable. Okay, Chris has persuaded me to redraw this one. I'm trying to focus on our priority TBR shelves, which we had not put together when I made these prompts, I am now realizing. And I don't think I've got any franchise books on that TBR shelf, there are, I think, 34 books on there that I wanted to try and read by the end of the year, and I don't think any of them are franchise books. I have got some, but not on my priority TBR, so I'm gonna let this be my one redraw.
Why did you put it back in?
We're going again. What does that say? The book with the least colourful cover. Let me have a look. Okay, I've scoured my shelves and I collected a few, but Chris immediately vetoed these three, which I personally think aren't very colourful, but he says they're too colourful. So I have been given the choice of Bride by Ali Hazelwood or The Bone Ships by R.J. Barker, and I think this one is objectively the least colourful. There's a bit of red in there, but it's mostly black and white. But I just started a new high fantasy series with The Tainted Cup, and it was great, but I'm really in the middle of a lot of series, so I'm kind of nervous about the idea of starting another one. But at the same time, Bride isn't even technically on my TBR, this is on Chris's. This is probably not really my kind of book, so I think it's probably gonna have to be The Bone Ships. Can you believe that I'm gonna be reading 2 books written by men in this video? That's wild. So there's a war going on, an endless war apparently, and it's fought in boats made from dragon bones. But all the dragons are dead, it seems, until one day one comes back in the distant sea. So both sides of this war decide they need to go and find that dragon to turn the tides in their favour. This does sound good. Anything with dragons in, I'm usually up for. I'm just nervous, and it's quite big. It's deceptively long. It's 464 pages, which you probably wouldn't guess, but they're quite thin and it's quite small text. So I don't know what the odds of me finishing this in the next 7 hours are. Realistically quite low, but hopefully I can get a good chunk of the ways in, and hopefully the writing will be good. Hello. I went and got cozy to start the Bone Ships before bed. I'm only about 20 pages in, so I really can't say how I'm feeling about this one yet. I think honestly I'm finding it a little bit jarring to start an entirely new fantasy series immediately after finishing the first in another one. So my brain is struggling a little bit. And also I just really liked The Tainted Cup and I just want to read the next one in the series, but obviously I can't, it's not out yet. So I'm not currently obsessed with this one, but I don't think that's necessarily this book's fault. And I also am only 20 pages in, so hopefully I get hooked on this one as well when I get a little bit further in. But I'm a little bit under 18 hours in now, I think. So I'll have to do some more tomorrow, but I'm gonna head to bed now because I have to be up pretty early for work. So I will see you with an update on this one tomorrow. So here's the sitch. It's the next day. I've been at work for most of the day. I got a chunk more reading done, like on the way to work and back, and since I got home, I have about 4 hours left of my 24 hours to get through. I need something different. I'm not DNFing this. I'm not saying I will never read this. I'm just not in the mood right now. I'm 64 pages in and I'm just not hooked currently. I think that my brain is too in the world of The Tainted Cup. I have a strong book hangover, so I'm really struggling to get my head around a new world when I'm still kind of stuck in that last one. And also, I think this is one of those books, tell me if I'm wrong if you've read this, but I think this is one of those books where you're not really meant to like the main character. At least I'm not loving them right now, and that's not a bad thing. I'm just, again, not really in the mood for that, and I'm tired. I've got 4 hours left, it's getting kind of late. I need the serotonin of a new pick and something preferably that's not like a big epic fantasy. I'm sorry this has become so chaotic. Let's go again. Oh, please be good. Okay. That's upside down, but it says an arc. Okay, I think I can do that. Okay, I have scanned my priority TBR shelves and there is only one actual proper arc on there. When I still had my bookshop job, we had a thing every week where we could request copies of new books in, but we wouldn't always get an arc. Sometimes they'd just give us a finished copy for free, which was awesome. But they're not technically arcs, so I didn't think they would count for this prompt. I think when I wrote that, I'd assumed that more of them were, but a lot of them were just finished copies. So the only one that is technically an arc that has the proper date on the spine and everything is Bookshops and Bone Dusts by Travis Baldree. If you can't tell, I'm happy about this. This is cozy. If you don't know, Travis Baldree is the one who wrote Legends and Lattes, which blew up last year, and this is the prequel to that one. All that I really know is that Viv the orc in this one gets injured and is forced to kind of lay low in a little town with a bookstore for a while. My boyfriend has read this and he really enjoyed it, and he recommended to me that I listen to the audiobook this time around because Travis Baldree actually narrates it, and he is an audiobook narrator. That's what he did for his job before he was an author, and I assume he still does. So I think I'm gonna have a lovely last 4 hours of this challenge just listening to the start of the audiobook of this one. I think it's only about 8 hours long in total, so I should be able to get at least halfway through. I'm gonna see what speed I want to listen to it at, because these days I've gotten so used to listening to things at least like 1.25 speed that it sounds kind of weird to me if I listen to it at normal speed. But hopefully this will just be a nice cozy time to wrap up this 24 hours with. I think we made the right choice here. Hello, happy 24 hours. I am nearly halfway through Bookshops and Bone Dust. I'm enjoying it. It's very cozy. I think I'm probably not doing the book justice by reading it right now because I am very snoozy. But it's very sweet, and it has got maybe a little bit more going on than Legends and Lattes did. There's a bit of a mystery going on and some spooky things. I think I need to perk up a bit and continue it after a good night's sleep. All in all, pretty successful in terms of getting through my TBR. I read Kiki's Delivery Service and The Tainted Cup, and then I took the Honey Witch off of my shelves. The Bone Ships is still on there, and I'm still working through Bookshops and Bone Dust, but I'm nearly halfway through. So that's 3 off the TBR and 1 well on the way to being off the TBR. So I'm pretty pleased with that. I would say that's a win. I think one thing I've learned is I really enjoy doing these 24-hour challenges, and I think that it is great for getting me to actually focus on reading. Often I enjoy books more that way when I properly give them that time. But one thing that made my first 24-hour reading vlog easier was because I got to choose the books I was reading. I had several going at once, and one of them was an audiobook, so I could switch between formats. If I needed to go and do something like make lunch, I would listen to my book while I was doing it, or if I felt like I needed a break from physically reading, then I would listen for a bit rather than scrolling on my phone or something, which I was definitely missing in this version, and I couldn't do that because I was waiting to pick my next book. I wasn't having more than one on the go at any point. But at the same time, I am grateful for the TBR jar picking out some things that I wouldn't have expected. I actually read a book by a man and I loved it. Who would have thunk it? Genuinely one of my favourite books of the year. I'm still trying to figure out if it was a 5-star or not. I really, really enjoyed it, and I haven't stopped thinking about it yet. So I think maybe for my next 24-hour challenge, I definitely want to do these again, but I think I will let myself choose my TBR for these specifically, and then maybe I'll do separate vlogs that are a bit less time pressured, where I might use my TBR jar. We're learning, and I got some good reading done, so I'm pretty pleased. Thank you so much for watching this kind of chaotic 24-hour reading vlog. I hope you enjoyed following along with my chaos. You know what I would love to hear from you? I would love to hear a good book you've read recently by a straight man. I would really love that. That feels like such an ironic thing to ask for. Anyway, I hope you're having a wonderful day. It is past 1 AM now and I have work in the morning, so I'm gonna head to bed. But I will see you very soon in another video. Bye-bye.